Hey everyone, so in this video I want to respond to CosmicSkeptic's viewpoint on free will, of which the link to his video will be in the description, and I highly suggest you check it out before watching my video. In his video he concludes that we don't have free will because our actions are determined by our wants, and since we can't control our wants, then our actions are not decided on our own. I, however, would like to present another process that I see as being more realistic. I do want to say though that this process could be altogether wrong or possibly need to be tweaked, but we'll never know unless we talk about it. So with that said, let's have a listen to what Alex has to say.
So what would make me choose vanilla over chocolate? Well, there is only one possible answer, which I'll elaborate on shortly. I would need to want it more than chocolate. In order to choose vanilla, I'd need to want vanilla. But is this something I can control? Can I control what it is that I want? Not a chance.
Basically, it looks like this. As you can see, it's very simplistic. The desire just randomly pops in your head, since according to him, you don't have control of it, and you then do the action rather than decide to do the action. I want some cake, therefore I eat some cake. But I don't see this process being a true representation as to how one gets to an action. Now, I do agree with him to some degree, but I see the process look something more like this. You have an initial thought pop into your head randomly, one that you do not have control over. It can be triggered by an advertisement, or someone saying something, or you doing something, or remembering something. Either way, you pretty much don't have control over it, which brings us to my understanding of the process that leads us to taking an action. As you can see, the process has an initial suggestion of an action to take, then our rationalization, then whether or not we accept that rationalization, and then from that we have the desired feeling of taking that action, and then we do that action. Now, as you can see, the rationalization can be logical, wise, intelligent, but it can also be illogical, stupid, and careless, and so on. We know this from personal experience and from others' experiences. You can also rationalize using knowledge, past experiences, a personal goal, etc. But here is an example of an irrational reason to have some cake. The suggestion pops in our heads randomly, even while we're watching TV, you should have some cake. Then we rationalize with something incoherent and apathetic like, psh, whatever. Then we accept that rationalization. From there, we then desire to have some cake, and we then eat some cake. Now, I don't know about you, but personally, I've rationalized like this before plenty of times. Then there's rationalizing logically. Once again, you should have some cake. Then we rationalize, no, I'm on a diet. That works for me. I don't want some cake, therefore I don't eat cake. Now let's see what examples Alex gives and try using them in the same way.
Consider the fact that you, presumably, don't want to punch your mother in the face. Can you choose to want to do that? This isn't the same thing as choosing to do it. Could you choose to want to?
Now that is a huge discrepancy. What is the difference between choosing to do it and choosing to want to do it? Choosing implies free will, but you said that we don't choose to do anything, and yet you're now saying that there are times when we are able to choose to do something, even though the only times we do something, according to you, is when we are forced or to want. But to want is out of our control. This is clearly a contradiction, but I think you may have misspoke. If not, then we need further elaboration because that is very, very important to explain rather than simply gloss right over. But anyway, let's look at his punching your mother in the face scenario. Now, let's be honest, who hasn't had this random thought cross their mind, not about their mother per se, but at least about someone? So it would go something like this. So here we have both actions of punching your mother in the face and not punching her in the face. In this first suggestion, it says to punch your mother in the face. You then reason by saying, no, that's my mother. You thankfully accept this reasoning. You desire not to punch her in the face, and as a result, you don't punch her in the face. In the second scenario, we see the suggestion is the same, but you rationalize by thinking, you know what? I'm sick of her yelling at me. You accept this reason. Because of that, you desire to punch her in the face, and you then take a swing at your mother. But because she has a black belt in Muay Thai, she parries your punch and knees you in the chest, then jumps on your shoulders and sends an elbow straight to your skull. As a result, you regret taking that action. But the real question is, are you choosing to want to regret that or not? But as you can see, his scenario allows us to reason to take the action or not take the action, which means we have a say in what we want to do.
But what if I just decided, in the full knowledge that I would prefer chocolate, to go for vanilla anyway, just for the sake of regaining my free will and nothing else? Well, I'm afraid you'd still face the same problem. The exact same problem, in fact. In order to do that, you'd need to want to regain your free will as you see it. Why is your desire to prove a point like this stronger than the desire to have the ice cream you prefer?
Well, like I said, the person's reasoning doesn't have to be logical, which means it doesn't have to be justified. So for me, it's not relevant.
It just is.
If we take your process, then yes, but in actuality, I don't see that to be the case, that it just is. Instead, it's because we rationalize.
And if it happened not to be, you'd have chosen the ice cream that you do prefer. The key takeaway is this: you cannot determine your wants. Think of something you want. Try to not want it. Think of something you don't want and try to want it. It's not possible.
Here I would clearly disagree, because you can rationalize your way to wanting or not wanting something, or to do something or not do something. That's why we weigh the pros and cons.
And even if it were, in order to change a don't want into a want, you'd need to want it. And vice versa, to change a want into a don't want, you'd need to want to not want it.
Correct. We rationalize, and as a result, we change our minds.
You simply can't control what you want. Now, that's one piece of the puzzle. Okay, the next piece of the puzzle is to convince you of this fact, that there are only two reasons for which you will ever do anything: because you want to, or because you're forced to. I'll give you a common objection that I hear all the time. Consider exercise. Consider going to the gym. Most people don't want to go to the gym, but they do it anyway. Surely this is an example of someone doing something freely and not because they want to or because they're forced to. Not really. Because there has to be a reason for going to the gym.
Ding, ding, ding. There it is. That's exactly it, Alex. There has to be a reason. Like I said, you can't escape the need of reasoning when it comes to the process of taking an action. However, that reasoning does not need to be justified.
And for most people, and for Arian, it's something like to stay healthy, to stay in shape, to live longer, whatever it may be.
Right, but here all you're doing when asking that why question, which was, for example, why do you desire losing weight, is simply pushing back the process to a prior suggestion, which would be, you should lose weight. Then you rationalize why you should lose weight. You accept that reasoning. Then you want to lose weight, and you take action, which might lead to a follow-up suggestion, which would be to go to a gym. This is exactly what takes place. It's a continuous, constant progression of random thoughts, reasoning, then desiring to take action, and then actually taking action.
So we have to ask again the same fundamental question. Why is the desire to stay healthy stronger than the desire to go to the gym? It just is. Or maybe it isn't, and some people stay at home and eat junk food instead. For these people, why is the desire to sit around or to eat junk food stronger than the desire to be healthy?
Again, it's because they have reasoned to that point. Regardless of the reason, it's that reasoning that has led them to the desire to take that action. An exception to this to consider would be a carnal desire, for example, hunger. When your body is hungry, you wouldn't necessarily rationalize wanting to eat because your body is forcing that desire onto you. The rationalization would come in when you choose not to eat at that specific time due to certain circumstances, or what you would want to eat, or where you want to eat, and so on. That is exactly what you would rationalize. And you would do so based off of logical reasons, irrational reasons, past experiences. I mean, the reasons are endless. So that's my take on how one comes to a desire and as such leads to an action. Now, there may be things I'm overlooking, but one thing we can't ignore is that reasoning is a part of the process. To say otherwise would ignore reality and would take away any reliability on behalf of the individual, because if the action they take doesn't come from any sort of reasoning, but is out of their control, that means they are not culpable for the action because it's not their action. Furthermore, the reason rationality is important is because we know that it exists, simply because to deny the concept of rationality would be proof of it, because you would require the very thing you are trying to disprove. Same thing with logic and truth. To deny logic or truth would be proof that they exist, because without them you couldn't deny them. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this helps our understanding of taking an action a little bit better. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and remember to always sharpen your faith.